Why don't we start with, what was the impetus for the billboard?
So I'm sure you're aware that Rhode Island on July 1st of 2019 changed the statute that allowed people who were victims of child sexual abuse to go after their perpetrators. It used to be the age of majority, 18 years of age plus 7 years. Currently, it's been changed to 35 years plus 18, which brings us, that's the whole idea of the 53 years of age, brings us up to 53.
You've been working with victims of sexual abuse long before the statute was extended. But the impetus for the billboard was to educate people, hey, you now have until you're 53 years of age to take this legal recourse. Is that right?
The billboard creates two purposes. One is to create general awareness in our community because there are 74 million children in the United States. 10% of them are getting abused. That's 7 million children. So 10%, that's 2 to 3 kids in every classroom in Rhode Island goes through sexual abuse. And if we don't talk to our children, if we don't educate people, we're not going to prevent it, we're not going to stop it.
Walk me through, what was the conversation like when you and your team decided we're going to do this campaign and raise awareness about it, let people know that we're here? As far as what the billboard itself would look like, what was that conversation like?
It took a long time to come up with what we were going to put on there. There was a lot of arguing. So I wanted to create conversation. I wanted to create awareness. In the first 3 days of that board being up, the office got multiple calls. There were 83 posts on Facebook. So we wanted it to be shocking. If you put a board up that people don't pay attention to, it doesn't do its job. It doesn't create awareness. It doesn't get people talking. And I want parents talking to their children. I want educators in school to come up with a program of how to deal with it. So that was the point of the billboard, is to create something that made people have a conversation.
Is it tape on the kid's mouth or is it a zipper?
It's a zipper.
It's a zipper. I need to see it up close. Why did you want it to be shocking?
We see 3,000 commercials a day. So we have become desensitized to things that happen every day. If you watch the news, you watch the news about sexual assaults, fires, murder. So it's just another day, another board. So the board had to stand out enough so people took notice. Children asked their parents. We're getting calls from parents who say, why is that board up? My child asked me, what is child sexual abuse? Why is there a zipper in front of that girl's mouth? And I said, for that purpose. It's to get children asking parents, parents talking to children. It's to create awareness, create conversation.
But don't you think there will be some parents who say, yeah, but that's not a conversation I should be having with my 4, 5, 6-year-old?
So statistically, it says that children are at their greatest risk between the ages of 3 and 8 in this country from sexual assault, which means we should be talking to our children from the moment that they can speak and understand, which would be 2 years old. So if you wait till they're 10, it's too late.
Talk with me about what the response has been like on your Facebook page. You were saying you got somewhere in the ballpark of 80 comments. Groups of people, mostly positive, negative, mixed?
I've seen both. I've seen people who say horrible. I've seen people who say it's about time. I see people that say thank you. I see people that say, why do I have to have this conversation? Why do I have to think about this topic? So it's all over the board. I mean, we've talked to 3 different groups of people. Parents of children who called to talk about having the conversation with their children. We've talked to victims, which that's a difficult thing, right? So obviously I apologize to the victims directly because we don't want to be causing a victim any more concern or stir. I'm a victim. I suffered abuse when I was a child. So it sucks. It's something I've had to deal with my whole life. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to avoid the topic and hide from helping other people and create awareness. It's necessary.
You mentioned there were 3 groups. The third group would be organizations.
Organizations. I spoke to Day One, which is the Rhode Island Coalition for Sexual Abuse. And they're interested in working with us. They want to help us fine-tune the message. She likes the message. She doesn't like the zipper. She's concerned about the victims, which I completely agree and understand. So they're supposed to be contacting us with their marketing and relations person, and we're supposed to work with them.
On that note, I did reach out to them. I left a message with them. I spoke with the executive director at Adoption Rhode Island, Darlene Allen, and like we were saying before off camera, she said, look, I appreciate him wanting to reach out to the victims, letting them know the statute has been extended. Her biggest concern was the image itself, that it could be re-triggering. She says she wishes that the office had reached out to organizations to work with them about how to do this campaign. How would you respond to that?
I'm open to anyone who wants to work with us. So every person that's called, whether it was a parent, whether it was a victim, or whether it's an organization, I take the call personally. So if someone wants to come in and talk to us about how to improve the message, how to improve awareness, what we should be doing, I'm certainly open to taking those calls and adjusting.
Since, whether it's since the billboard has been up or since the statute has been extended, I'm curious what you've been seeing. Are you seeing more victims come forward, or is it too early to really be getting those numbers?
We're getting calls every day. Victims calling us to get help, to get information, to know what their rights are. The phone is ringing every day. I used to get maybe one call a quarter every 3 months, and we're getting calls every day.
Since the billboard's been up or since the law has been extended?
Since the billboard's been up. So no one called increased calls since the law was changed. It was still maybe one a month, one every other month, one a quarter. Since we started our campaign, the phone is ringing every day.
And again, that's been a week and a half, and that's
Correct.